Afternoon, everybody. My name is Pete Tseronis, and welcome to the Utility SuperCluster Summer Gathering here today on September 8th at 2:01 Eastern Standard. I hope everybody had a wonderful Labor Day weekend. I am the CEO of Dots and Bridges, and for the past 5 years since I left federal service, I've continued my passion for, simply stated, connecting dots, building those relationship bridges, and God willing, creating some light bulb moments for my colleagues. I'm on a mission to educate, inform, and enlighten as to how technology affects humanity, how humanity influences culture, and ultimately how culture shapes technology. And we're going to get into that today, and will be a common theme throughout with our wonderful guests. I worked inside government for 25 years, kicking off that career at the Pentagon, traveling through Department of Education, 4 administrations, 3 agencies, and then finishing up at the U.S. Department of Energy as the Chief Technology Officer and as a Senior Executive Service Member. It was an incredible ride and journey filled with mission, passion, purpose, and I know both Paula and Juan know that feeling. I'm also the chairperson for the Utility SuperCluster, which is an international community that's embracing the spirit of participation, collaboration, and transparency, open government tenets, all in an effort to help catalyze this information sharing opportunity we have in a digitally connected world, albeit the pandemic's accelerating that, but we can still communicate and connect. And while we focus on energy, water, and waste sectors here in the Utility SuperCluster, we recognize that this tapestry, as we like to refer to it, bridge all critical infrastructure sectors. I want to give a shout out to the National Institute of Standards and Technology, specifically Dr. Sakwu Ri, the Associate Director for Cyber Physical Systems at the NIST. He and his colleagues are doing their part on the federal side to really promote smart cities, smart connected secure cities, and really have been a bastion, and if you will, since 2014, an amazing group taking that torch and moving it forward, and again, helping cities and communities like San Antonio and out in Lakewood and Denver, that are really trying to learn from one another. You know, the public and private sectors share a symbiotic relationship. In this case, we have a utility chief executive officer. We have an associate lab director here from the National Renewable Energy Lab. And we have government partners and other folks in academia. And technology is so diverse and complex that it's not about the buy sell, but as Paula and Juan and I have talked, it's about the seekers and the solvers. And you don't have to have a pedigree of so many certifications, even though Paul and Juan have incredible pedigrees that I will not read because I will spend hours on that. It really does take into account this humanity, the mission, the purpose that we really hope to get across today. And again, moving into our guests, to just set that background context, we're honored to have 2 thought leaders, change agents, and visionaries. You see Miss Paula Gold-Williams and Mr. Juan Torres. I'm going to do a little bit of bragging about you, Paul and Juan, and then we'll kick it right in because this is a fireside chat. I've got my coffee. I hope you do too. If the video gets choppy, I'm going to freeze frame them. Thank you, Paula. And we're going to make this one of those discussions that we hope, again, will create folks or allow folks to be enlightened and informed, to get to know you 2 amazing individuals. Paula Gold-Williams, President and CEO of CPS Energy, which, oh, by the way, is the nation's largest municipality-owned energy company. Paula is the one and only Black woman leading a major utility company, which is off the charts amazing and just a nice little factoid. Okay, what is Paula all about? 30+ years of experience in San Antonio, regional controller for Time Warner's regional office, VP of finance for Luby's Incorporated before coming to CPS Energy in late 2004. Titles and titles and titles aside, she has an associate's degree in fine arts from San Antonio College, a bachelor's of business administration and accounting from St. Mary's, and an MBA from Regis University. She just received, if I'm not mistaken, the 2020 Women's Leadership Award for Woman of the Year. Again, the list goes on and on. If you ever have a chance to watch, listen, take in Paula G. She's amazing, and I'm blessed to call her a friend. And I'm going to kind of leave it there, Paula, because your story's going to come out in your storytelling. And you could talk a little bit more about CPS Energy there. Juan Torres, dear friend from many, many moons back. Juan was one of the first individuals I met when I used to travel to the national labs when I worked at the DOE as the CTO. He's the Associate Laboratory Director for Energy Systems Integration at the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, which, oh, by the way, in 2017 celebrated 40 years of driving advanced energy research. Factoid, in September 1991, President George Bush designated it a national laboratory, but its roots go back to its predecessor entity, the Solar Energy Research Institute. So there's a lot of deep roots in DNA, and this role of the national labs teamed with the utility and industry. We'll talk about that symbiotic relationship. Again, we're going to tell stories, we're going to translate, we might have a little buzzword bingo. So I've asked my guests if they use an acronym. If the acronym sounds cool and you don't want to explain all 5 of the letters or 6, don't. Let's keep this really simple and sweet. Okay, there you go. Normally I let my guests go talk about themselves, but I figured, you know what? People are always too humble about that. So let's just kind of plan to jump in right now. Again, Paula and Juan, thank you. We've got an hour, we're recording, and we're going to have some fun with some Q&A. Sound good?
Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome.
Cool. Okay, so Paula, I'm going right to you, lady.
Okay.
What is your favorite part about working at CPS Energy?
That's great. So Pete, I want to say first, thank you. You've been a friend to CPS Energy and a driver in the industry in terms of looking at the nexus points. I would say, connected to what I get super excited about, is that we're living an evolution. And the tough thing about an evolution is when you're experiencing it, you don't think you're in it, but we are absolutely in an evolution, maybe in some ways a revolution. So I finally talked to a few folks and kind of, I've probably been analyzed for my career multiple times. And I was told ultimately that I like change and transition and find it exciting, because I think things that are baked and done and haven't changed in a long time make you stale and they take you out of learning mode. But this industry is absolutely in learning mode and opportunity. And the real exciting part is this is just not a San Antonio thing or a United States thing. This is a global thing. And to really realize that, you know, all of us and people who are interested in the subject, your listeners today, are all part of this opportunity to do what we call blend the tried and true with the new, so that we can make that transition livable, not just livable, but really be an advantage, take a challenge and make it an opportunity. So that gets me jazzed up every single day, and realizing that there's so many people who are contributing to it. At CPS Energy, there's 3,100 people who are really making sure as essential service that we are keeping the lights on, keeping the power flowing, dealing with emergent work. But at the same time, we're thinking about how are we needing to change to better serve? Amen. How are we needing to change to engage in this discussion about this change? And so I always say it's like rebuilding the plane while you're flying it, kind of right now through a storm called whatever, pandemic or economic trend or whatever. But I still find that exciting because we're going to figure it out. The pandemic will ultimately pass, and we're going to have to keep going to figure out what the new solutions are.
Well said, and thank you for just absorbing so much of what I have in front of me, and I do in the spirit of my mentor, James Lipton here, 10 pages of notes of Paula, just the storyteller you are, and Juan, we're pivoting to you because you're going to get the same question, buddy. But Paula, you've talked about people first and workforce and next generation. I mean, you have this incredible presence internationally on social media, and I just, again, commend you and thank you for kind of painting that picture that it's still a humanity thing that while technology underpins, we still have to stay in front of, and your efforts to help that 21st century workforce are truly amazing. And it's just, thank you. So, okay, great job on that one. Juan Torres, brother from another mother. What is your favorite part about working at our nation's, or one of our nation's national laboratories?
I think you have to go back to why did I come here? Why did I come to NREL? And you and I have talked a little bit about my history. You and I met at Sandia Labs, right? Many years ago.
Yep.
So Sandia Labs is a national security laboratory. They do weapons of work, but they also did a lot of work in energy. So, I spent 27 years there. Why would I leave a laboratory did such great work and had supported my career to give me so many great opportunities. And it was all about what I was seeing as the future. My background in cybersecurity, national security, and coupled with my experience, I ran renewables programs there for several years and the microgrid programs and so on. So it's been about 20, there's an overlap of the last 20 years of my career there really started going into this critical infrastructure area. And I saw the future. The future essentially was not like a crystal ball future, but I could see what was coming. And a lot of the new technologies in renewables and smart grid and smart technologies, you can just see this is where things are going. And I saw the people that were going that direction did not necessarily have an understanding of the threat, of cybersecurity, of national security, and so on. It was an opportunity for me to really bring together that deep security background with an understanding of the energy sector and renewables and so on. It was, I describe it as it was like chocolate and peanut butter. Two things you didn't normally hear in the same conversation, right? You heard people talking security, but they didn't understand energy. They didn't understand renewables. And working in the renewable sector, the people over there really understood green energy and so on, but not necessarily security. And when you put them together, it's like they were talking two different languages. And I found that I was a kind of a translator, and there was need for more people who really understood a security space to work in the energy renewable space. So the reason I came to the laboratory, the reason I really love it there, is because we're plowing new ground. We are laying the foundation for the future, for how these technologies will be used, how they'll be secured, how they'll be developed, right? And this will lay the foundation for the next 20, 40, 50 years and beyond. We have an opportunity because technology has advanced so quickly, and being at a national laboratory, you're on that leading edge. Mm-hmm. We're doing things in the laboratory that you just don't see out in the field, or the vendors just haven't gotten to the point where they can, make any money off it yet. And of course, and I a lot of respect for Paula and the folks on the utility side. They got to keep the lights on. Yep. So they can't take these kinds, right? They can't take these risks. Sometimes they got to have some comps. And I think this is where the national labs, have just a great role to help provide that bridge, work with the owners, the operators, work with the people developing technologies, work with the universities and so on, and try to bring it all together there. So, what I love about being at NREL is we're at that nexus point where all these pieces come together to really shape the future, and specifically here, shape the future around energy, around renewables, around smart technologies, grid technologies, artificial intelligence-based systems, so on. So it's just really an exciting place and an exciting time to be at NREL.
Well, that's amazing. And for the record, Paul and Juan, you're allowed to jump in. We're just sitting around having coffee. And if, I don't have it scripted because I have some surprise questions, but this
is like 10 pages though. You got 10 pages, Pete. That's not fair.
Hey, I do, but it's all about you. You should see, this is a sampling of what greatness you two are. Let me just draw one parallel to our audience too. And again, we're going to be recording this, obviously. And then if you missed it today, you can watch it, but we really hope these pearls of wisdom resonate. Paula, CPS Energy and its commitment to grid optimization and solar power, energy, clean energy innovation, and energy efficiency is why it's such a incredibly timely opportunity to chat with our good friend here, Juan, who's leading this advanced research on integrated energy systems, also known as ARIES, very cool acronym, that I just hope everybody knows that CPS, who I consider a trailblazer lighthouse utility in our country. And again, while you may know Paula, everybody, there are a lot of utilities in the country that aren't just energy. And folks like Juan Torres and his colleagues in the labs, I've had the experience who every day go to work with that mission, passion, and purpose, just like Paula and her team, to kind of just make this place a little bit safer and treat its customers with what they need in terms of what we take for granted when you flip a switch on. And I think that, again, a theme today, and we'll cut into some of the smart cities. I mentioned the utility supercluster. The whole point of this supercluster is to learn from these incredible folks and their experiences, their failures, and saying, hey, it's not a moment in time, but it's very dynamic. Okay, with that, so there was a nice little connection there between energy efficiency and sustainability. But Paula, we've talked about 21st century workforce, you and I separately, IT modernization and the constant, as you call it, evolution of the workforce and the importance of data as the new oil. What is if you can, are you excited about some kind of movement at CPS, whether it's a technology investment or the workforce becoming reskilled and retrained and retained, that you're excited about that might be your legacy one day?
Okay, I'll try to parse it out in a couple of components, but so, you know, I will say this. I mean, there are certain players in all aspects of business who are, you know, rechristening themselves as tech companies. What I say is we're tech enabled, and we need organizations that are both the folks that are into ideation and the passion about new technologies and making them more efficient. NREL, all the national labs do amazing work. There is this other entrepreneurial spirit that's happening across the globe, which we love. And it is tough because what happens is people look at a utility and the last thing they want a utility to do is to take a risk. So we believe, though, that we can make smart, calculated investments with partners like NREL and other national labs and even local players. That's why I also think this is such an interesting time because, you know, people say, well, you know, what's so exciting about it? I mean, you can get in now. You can get in now into this industry and be at the problem solving stage. You could be at the creative stage, the pilot. I think the pilots are so absolutely interesting. And, you know, CPS Energy started certain things. We started the new energy economy where we were trying to attract businesses from around the globe, and we did. We ended up with partners from South Korea, OCI, and partners across in Europe and across the nation, and asked them to bring their jobs and some aspect and form and investment in San Antonio, and we still have that today. But we're also now launching this big RFP process. It's starting with the RFI that closed on the 31st, up to 900 more megawatts of solar. We already have 1,000 megawatts of our 7,000 of wind. We have over 550 megawatts of solar utility scale, and then we have over 100 megawatts of distributed energy. But we want to put 900 more megawatts on the grid in San Antonio. We want to put in an element of energy storage, but we also want, now it's about 50 megawatts. You know, the challenge with storage, and of course we need the labs for this, is the duration times don't really help us more than fast response. We need long duration. And, you know, the way I talk about batteries in a simplistic way, Juan, don't judge me, but is that for me, you got to rack them and stack them. And so, you know, it's one of those things that we think is critical to renewables, and particularly in terms of how fast, you know, the sun actually stops shining at night, or the wind is bad. I mean, the weather is bad, all that stuff happens. But so we need it at the core, but we want that technology to advance. And then we have 500 megawatts of firming capacity, and we put it out to the globe. We put it out in 10 different languages. And we want people to come partner with us and collaborate and not make it a guessing game for us. We're not the experts. The labs are the experts, the people who are doing the innovation, the people who have taken their pilots and made sure that they proved those pilots out. And now they need investment and scale, and they need a partner that knows how to function in a community and balance what we call our 6 pillars. We have reliability, resilience, safety, security, affordability. Customers always want that, and they always want reliability. And then environmental responsibility. And so we believe when we partner, we can do the best that we can with new innovation and put it to work. And then we also want pilots, though. We want people to bring us ideas. We want San Antonio to have more pilots. We want people, again, to get excited about how can they get involved in the industry? Where's new technology going? And one of our big universities here, just one of them, we have multiple, UTSA has a great partnership, both on the cyber side and on the research and development side with the national labs. Again, we feel like we need an ecosystem around all of this innovation, and to be able to work with organizations like the labs to help us think about how do you really take it from pilot to scale, and to make customers get excited again about ultimately moving that from the front office products that they might have in their home to being much more efficient and effective in forecasting renewables and making them work better inside of this big grid that we're working. So, I could just go on and on about how exciting I think that is. We're tech enabled.
Yes.
And we just believe in that partnership is going to make it ultimately happen.
Well said. And before I pivot over to my good friend here, Juan, it seems like Paula, unassumingly, and frankly, none of this was previewed, folks, teed you up for grid modernization and Aries, because she listed 6 objectives or tenets of CPS that seem to align with the nation's grid modernization initiative. So anybody wants to go Google energy.gov and say, oh my gosh, Paula's doing the same thing our nation's doing. Again, why she's an incredible leader. Juan, I'm going to pivot over. I know what you're working on is exciting from A to Z, but Aries seems to be pretty cool, as well as GMI. Do you want to kind of distill that for our friends?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's always good to hear from the people who actually run the system, like Paula, that the work that we're doing is relevant.
Absolutely.
And that shows that all the time and effort we're taking to listen, to the utilities, listen to all the owners, the operators, the integrators, and so on, to see where we see the need, but also provide some vision, right? And say, hey, look, we think this can help you do things a little better and achieve some of those 6 objectives. Those are very similar to the things that we're doing. The Department of Energy has a grid modernization initiative that kicked off in 2015 timeframe. And one of the many other hats that I wear is I'm the co-lead of the Grid Modernization Lab Consortium under Department of Energy with my colleague Carl Imhoff over at PNL, and we've got 14 national labs. Over $200 million of investment just in the GMLC effort since 2016. So really massive effort. So you mentioned Aries, and a lot of you may have seen something about Aries over the past few weeks. Aries stands for Advanced Research in Integrated Energy Systems. This is it's a platform. It's an initiative. It's bringing things together and to address some of these challenges as we see the future of our energy infrastructure taking shape. Look, we know that everything's not about renewables. I'm the first one to say, especially coming from a nuclear weapons lab, that there's other stuff out there. Nuclear energy is very important to our grid, and some of the fossil-based generation extremely important. Natural gas coupled with wind and so on is being used as a big solution in many areas. But I always say, hey, you got to look at what's locally and regionally palatable and what makes sense, what resources you have there. But what we're seeing is as the grid evolves, we found there's three challenges we're trying to help with. Okay, this isn't going to solve everything, but Aries is founded on addressing three major challenges with this future integrated system, because the grid works as an integrated system coupled with other infrastructures as well. It's not just about electricity. You tie to natural gas, you tie to telecom, right? Water, especially where you have hydro plants. So you got to look at it as a system. But we're seeing, if we break it down into some three pieces that we're focused on. One is we are seeing an increase in the number of devices that are touching the grid, especially at the edge of the grid. And I'll say that's down at the distribution level, substation down to the consumer, and even behind the meter. Because now consumers are putting in, right? They're putting in smart appliances, right? I can control my AC and my furnace, from my phone. People, want to put in their own PV. That people want to put in, vehicle charging at home. There's a whole bunch of things that are driving why people are connecting to it, and they want it convenient, right? But there are a lot of new devices being even added onto the grid at the substation level. We've got we've got micro PMUs, phasor measurement units. We've got new storage technologies. We've got, new protection kinds of devices, control devices, and so on. So more and more devices, okay, that's number one, being added to the grid.
Internet of Things, industrial Internet of Things, crazy cool stuff that, okay,
a lot of
that we got to
control.
secure too.
Exactly, you're right on it. You're right on it. And people are taking advantage of the fact that, hey, I can get some convenience out of this for how I use energy, right? Or even devices I want to connect to produce energy. Then the second area is that we're seeing an increase in the variability of the types of devices. All right, so you've got generation types devices and control devices. You've also got consumer or energy consumption types of devices, and everything in between, right? So the types of devices is also another thing we're seeing. So the third area is we're seeing variability in the size of the devices, increased variability. So you've got megawatt scale technologies being added at a substation or higher, of course, multi-megawatts, hundreds of gigawatts or megawatts or whatever. Generation plants go up to the the hundred to the gigawatt scale, right? But then you've got small devices, even down at the distribution level. You've got somebody putting on 3-5 kilowatts of PV on their home, and then at the same time you might have megawatt scale solar farm. On a rooftop, over at the Home Depot or the garage or whatever it is, right? So you've got now variability in all these devices. This is not the grid that we had 50 years ago. And Paula, I know you can attest to all this. So we're seeing all these technologies coming. So those three big things that we're working on that are foundation for Aries and why we have Aries: increased number of devices, increase in the variability of the types of devices, increase in the variability of the size of these devices. And we've established a kind of a research program around this, and that leverages three major components at NREL. Okay, one is we've been doing. Some of you who are familiar with NREL been out there. If you hit our website, familiar with the Energy Systems Integration Facility. We opened our doors there 2013. And they focus on 2 megawatts and below, bench scale kinds of research, microgrid research, advanced distribution management systems, autonomous based systems down at the distribution level, and so on. Electric vehicles, storage, fuel cells, a lot of cool stuff going on there. That's one component of Aries is the ESIF. The second component of Aries is we have this campus that sits between our main campus in Golden, but between there and Boulder, there's a campus called Flatiron. 305 acres, connection to the utility. Our utility is Excel at 115 kV. So we have the substation there as part of our research platform, and we can go all the way down distribution as well. But then we can go to up to 20 megawatt scale of experimentation. We can go up to that 115 kV bulk grid level.
That is amazing.
And so we've got that whole, that we can go all the way from behind the meter consumer to the bulk grid. And the third component of Aries is really exciting. This is a piece, everybody comes to NREL more recently, including several assistant secretaries and so on, that have come and said, hey, I've never been this. I've never been here. I've never been to Flatirons. I had no idea you had this kind of capability. And coupled with ESIF, oh my God, I haven't seen anything like this. But the other piece is, especially to address the challenge around millions of devices. So Paula, if I were to say, I got this great system here, I want to, I would really, I think would help you out. You'd want to say, prove to me this thing really works. It's going to cost me money. You better not knock the lights out, right? So part of what we're doing is trying to reduce that risk and give you a sandbox there to try things out. But what if what if you were looking at your system, you say, I'm going to have how many millions of these devices? How's this going to work? You're probably thinking about some of this now. So we've created a virtual environment that ties into hardware, real devices in the loop. So you have some ground truth of is this really how it's going to work? But you can virtualize and create whatever you want out there, whether it's a bunch of inverters on the PV side, whether it's a bunch of electric vehicle charging stations, whatever it is, and tie it to the real hardware assets up to the bulk grid level at Flatirons or the other assets over at ESIP. So now really you're limitless, right? Because beyond that, what we also do, we may not have a nuclear power plant. But guess what? We've got good friends over at Idaho National Lab where we can link our assets to theirs. We can link over to Oak Ridge National Lab. We can link over to Pacific Northwest. We can link over to Sandia and other assets that we may not have. So that really expands the capability, at your disposal. So, you can tie into, a central hub there and have access to all these different capabilities. And you can look at cybersecurity issues. You can look at the power flow issues. You can look at, training issues. How are people actually going to use something like this? So this is beyond, I think, what anything has ever existed like this, and allows us to look at really large scale, or what we call at scale, integrated systems that bring in these things that have never worked together before. Right? Well, and it will help you reduce that risk, gain that confidence that this will work how you want it to work.
So that was an incredible kitchen sink of what an opportunity to partner. And please, folks, nrel.gov or energy.gov/aries, everything Juan's talking about is groundbreaking. Paula, you talked earlier about your goal and vision, your technology roadmap to create a smarter city with a smarter grid. What an opportunity that's hidden in plain view, as I like to say, with regard to our national laboratories. So Juan, thank you. We're already getting some questions rolling in, and yes, Anna Sifkin, my colleague up there at Carnegie Mellon, is saying hello and how excited she is to be a part of this. I'm going to pivot to you, Paula, here, because the question is, you mentioned pilots, and I'm going to summarize. We have another great one from Jennifer Morrissey at Denton's. Pilots and proofs of concept, that's where it starts. You have to have that vision. Is your experience, or maybe some of what has been the challenge of saying, hey, we're willing to try, we want to mitigate risk, we want to engage industry, but when it comes down to kind of having that roadmap, Paula, you're the executive, you are it. And then there's these incredible people in your workforce that have to make it work. How do you engage industry, whether they're selling a product or looking to produce a pilot? And what other co-ops, investor-owned utilities are learning from you? It would be good to know how your efforts are being socialized.
Well, I will absolutely share some of the things that we're doing. And Jennifer, nice to see you out there. Denton's is an amazing organization that is working on smart cities globally, and I'm proud to be affiliated on the pillars associated with energy with Ernie Muniz. And exactly what Juan is talking about, this really reconceptualizing what needs to happen in terms of those additional devices, many of them that are going to be on the grid and at the distribution level. I do believe, again, it's about this partnership. So Denton's gives CPS Energy this big global view. And so we're able to touch base with people all around the globe about that type of intellectual capital that's really exciting.
Great
Again,
word.
the ability also to compare across the globe from that standpoint. And then we put that together with what we call, the concept of regionalism, which I see more and more. But, years ago, I was thinking about regionalism, and Juan said something to the effect of, it kind of depends on your current state. Like, where is your community, and what's the most interesting thing and the need that you have to scratch that itch. And once again, through Denton's, I got connected with the city of New Orleans, and they're going to look at things like flood control, right? And the devices necessary to secure that city and keep it safe in light of, we are where we are. For us, San Antonio in 2017, I always like to remind myself, we had tornadoes, floods, hurricanes, and snow and black ice in one year in San Antonio, which never happened. Last year we had straight winds, which is the equivalent of tornadic winds, but they don't twirl, they actually go straight. And so we're experiencing all of these issues, and we're trying to figure out how to do the right outreach with the national labs, but how to do this ecosystem that can expand and contract as you need to. I also sit on the board of EPRI, And EPRI is very much about applied science. And so is one of our organizations here called Southwest Research Institute. We did a major solar battery microgrid here that we're studying together and trying to partner again. How do we become great operators of this technology? And then we have another organization called the Epicenter. And we initially created that just to have a convening mechanism and attract people to San Antonio. And we were trying to redo one of our plants, and we thought about it. And we're like, why are we stuck on brick and mortar? We need to be about the technology. We need to be about the using of digital platforms and the ability to, if we can't physically connect, socially connect while we stay safe, and use all of those mechanisms. So we take our global views that we get from other organizations, and then we start to think about our region. And San Antonio is the 7th largest city in the United States, but we've also made a regional view of what we call the San Antonio, Texas corridor. And there's public power all up and down that corridor, and multiple cities that we actually serve from time to time and we give them wholesale power. And so what we're doing is creating an avenue where we can start to compare and bring in technologies. Epicenter helps us view and scan those technologies. And then we start to put them in and say, well, we can get purchasing power out of San Antonio, but couldn't we get purchasing power out of San Antonio and Austin Energy and Lower River, Colorado, and utility and New Braunfels utility? And so we're starting to share those things. And to Jennifer, to your point, some of those entities are all different sizes, and some are small, and we ultimately want to help the South Texas region. So, but you have to do a lot of outreach, and you have to create those connections with labs, with EPRI, with Southwest Research, with the Epicenter, and then you got to bring them into an environment where you can share those ideas with other CEOs and executives across an area where you can create more leverage. And I think that's more attractive to third parties who want to say, I want reach, right? I want to be able to pilot in San Antonio, but I want other people to be able to come see it. And then they might want to partner all up and down the corridor to share information. And so when we do that, we also expand and contract inside of our organization. So I don't like people to have the word strategy in their title. I try to pull it, because I don't think a single person in an organization can be the only strategic driver. I think everybody has to have their interest and start to be in learning mode and start to share. So we create this cross-organizational mechanism that helps us look at technologies from multiple different avenues and think about it broadly. Again, how do you move from conceptual to applied? And so it's very much a living organism. Our ecosystem is living and growing and expanding in different directions. And the point is not to choke it off. Don't choke it off. Use and leverage, Pete, for where we started, use the concept of people and collaboration and partnership and getting everyone excited about, okay, we can do this thing here, but how do we view the technology? How do we do it? How do we make it work? And so we are team oriented here. We have what we call a quarterback model, and we push that across the organization so we can look at technology, not just through the eyes of operation or not just through the eyes of the legal department or the risk department, but every eye. And again, teach everyone to get comfortable with this ambiguity of are you really sure? Who knows for sure? Are you curious? How is it yes, if, and yes, and instead of no, I can't take that risk. It's yes, and the more you can leverage all the people that you can interact with and find those synergies and find those partners. In some cases, maybe another utility wants to go in with you, and that makes it even more palatable and affordable for your customers. So we keep telling ourselves, don't be blocked, be open from that standpoint.
Paula, and again, I'm going to glean from that. And by the way, thank you, Juan, for answering some of these great questions coming in from Charlene, my colleague here in the DMV. Paula, Kevin McGrail, I don't know if you see this, says, love your passion. You rattled off the 6 tenets. What are they again? So if you want to respond there, again, Kevin, we're going to resend this out. You can hear it again. I heard, Paula, this amazing, what I've been I've known about you forever is this curiosity, this humility to learn and explore and take a risk here and there. And Juan, you've talked about those mitigated risks as we become a converged world with operational tech and information tech, or an OTIT speak. Folks, Paula is the CEO. If you saw her in the street, I'm telling you, like me, she'd probably give you a hug. Juan, he's a bro hug kind of guy too, but they have incredibly talented workforce folk. I know with Paula and Fred and Shanna and Vivian, there are people that in the trenches are the ones keeping the lights on and making sure, Paula, I would imagine, and Juan with your team, that we don't overcommit, but we speak ground truth. So, I heard Paula say, hey, show us, don't just tell us what you can do. If you're industry, you don't just drive up and say, hey, sign here, we'll give you the next device. In Juan's case, I mean, there's so many agreements at NREL alone that, from CRADAs, which are cooperative research and development agreements, funding and agreements, technical service agreements, interagency agreements. Nobody after this call, given the fact that there are 900 partnerships in play at the moment with NREL, if not more, that these folks aren't, in the case of even CPS, willing partners, right? I'm hearing partner, I'm hearing you say partner, not just looking for a paycheck or willing to give a paycheck, Paula. So thank you on that. Juan and Paula, it's 2:42, mindful of our time. We do have some fun questions coming up and a parting shot that each of you will give, because we will promise to end sharp at 2:59-ish. Do you have any comments, any of that, Juan, that you want to kind of pile on to or add to? Because Paula put a lot out there of practicality of the great work that you're doing at a national laboratory, institution.
Yeah, I think maybe what I'll do is I'll add on to the key piece in all of this, and maybe to even tie into Charlene's question, right? Technology is awesome, but it all comes down to the people and how you use it. Do they know how to use it? Is this really helping or not? Ultimately, is decided by people. So it's really important to make sure you have the culture on the consumer side. Understand what is it that we're working with when we're talking about energy. How is this going to even make a difference? Why do we care, right? And I also point out on the the response, Charlene, the joke I always use is, when it comes to security, right? It's like this old joke I'd heard, what not necessarily a great joke, but what part of the car kills the most people, right? It's the nut behind the wheel. It's right. It's not that the car failed or did something it wasn't supposed to. It's the person that's driving it. And when it comes down to security, you look at the most penetrations. How are people getting in? It's because somebody's clicking on the wrong email. Phishing. It's people that are not really aware, right? So I think just an important aspect of all of this that we're talking about when it comes to energy and where's energy going in the future, and smart, the future of smart cities and smart technology and so on. It's all driven by people. It's driven by us deciding, this is how we want things to be. This is how we want our lives to be. And when it comes to to energy, it's so foundational to everything. In fact, it's so foundational, we more or less most of us take it for granted. We just assume electrons are going to pour out of the socket there, right? And so it's very devastating when we don't have it, especially, people dealing with big storms right now, people dealing with wildfires and so on. I mean, it is super devastating. The assumption is it is always there. It's just so foundational. So as we think about, we go in the future, we take that into account. And how we want to shape the future of energy for us. How do we want to shape that? Based on what we know now, would we design our future energy infrastructure? Would we design it differently today, knowing what we know today, than back when when Edison was doing his first demo, right? He had no concept of how the grid would evolve. He didn't. Even back when we were first expanding our transmission system, we had no idea of the threats we have to deal with today. Paula, GridX. The kinds of things we do with that kind of an exercise, major attack, cyber and a physical attack. Do you think Edison thought about stuff like that? Do you think 50 years ago we really thought about it to the level we do now, where we have terrorism and different things here in the country? back in the 50s, everybody was worried about the Russians attacking us from the outside, and we're still kind of worried about that. But back then, that was the big threat was, you know, we draw a big perimeter around the entire country, right? And we just got to keep the bad people out, right? Now it's like, we don't know what's inside. And it's not just where people are, it's like, we don't know what's embedded in this computer I just bought or this device I just bought. So it's a very, very, very different world, and driven by, you know, economics, driven by people's mindsets and stuff. So as we think about how we shape the future of this infrastructure, we really have to look within people and within society and where things are going. And there's an opportunity here to not only, you know, listen, but actually influence, right?
So,
influence in a positive way.
Yeah, I'm going to just reiterate the goals of the utility supercluster. And again, for those listening, we could spend hours, weeks, days talking about the coolest tech that's out there. I think Paul and Juan, we're developing some, we're leveraging some. Shout out to industry. I loved, Paula, your comment earlier about creative entrepreneurship teamed with government and industry to help drive this innovation. Juan, you mentioned 16 or critical infrastructure sectors, and that energy may be this, you know, the hub of those spokes. There's 16 in our country. There's 17 labs. You know, folks, you're going to have to appreciate this if you're listening. There are lighthouse early adopters that mitigate risk, like Paula Gold-Williams, and we need that kind of leadership. And it's okay to be a late adopter, and it's all dependent upon how many folks truly understand you don't live in a bubble. The grid is interconnected, to your comments about Edison, Juan, and cyber physical security is something you have to think about, not just the cyber side. You know, tech affecting humanity, humanity influencing culture, and culture shaping, you know, that humanity itself. It's a cyclical cycle. So I feel like that's something that I took away from today that I know you folks believe and enact, or should I say, take to your own business every day with your own culture and your leadership. Okay, so now we're going to go to a little fun little area. So no prescribed questions. And again, the goal here is to finish out with folks, rare opportunity to get to know these individuals. If you ever have a chance to watch them or listen, please do. There's great questions coming in. We'll share those and get you some answers. But again, this was about storytelling and translating, because we did use a lot of buzzword bingo. The questions. Okay, we're going to start. Juan, what's your favorite color?
Blue.
Blue. I dig that, especially with that gorgeous blue, wish it was real sky behind you. Paula, what's your favorite color?
I gotta be boring and say blue.
Okay.
I like it bright. I like it bright.
I know, but I've seen you in my favorite color, orange, lady, so I was expecting that, but awesome. Paula, what profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Oh, wow. Well, I wish I was super talented and I could do something like on stage and sing, but would never want that. So I'd have to be somehow like blessed in some way. So I'm more of a realist. You know, in general, I'd say what I want to do now more is share and coach and help people. For me, I do it now, but I think as I progress more, I'm looking for the people who are ready to come up in the industry, and I'm passionate about that.
Amen. Great answer. And I know that because you've said it many, many a time, and I love it. Juan, what would you do, or would you attempt if you weren't doing what you do so well?
Yeah, I probably similar. I'd love to teach. I've done teaching from the time I was in college. I tutored and did a lot of different things like that. Really enjoy, listening and learning from others as well. Because I think, when you're teaching, you also hear other people's perspectives. But I will tell you, I did have one time I had some artistic talent. I went into engineering as my backup plan. My first love back in school, high school, was art, and had an art scholarship. But I didn't want to be a starving artist, and I really loved math and science too. So I went down that path. So either a teacher or artist, or maybe I'm teaching art. I don't know, something like that.
I like it. For the record, go ahead, Paula. You were going to say something.
No, I'm laughing. I think that's great. I mean, that engineering was your backup plan. I like that.
Yeah. Hey, I don't have any artistic ability. My brother's a tattoo artist. He's amazing in Winchester, Virginia. So I got a friend if you're ever into that, you know, ink on your skin. Okay, Paula, what profession would you never want to do at all?
Okay. And I mean this in the most respectful way. I would never be, I couldn't hold a public office. I couldn't be, you know, a public official like a mayor or governor or representative. I think that's such tough stuff. My jobs are already hard, but I think in terms of trying to figure out the policy, my job, I believe, is to help formulate and shape policy with good information and let policymakers kind of think through how to make all of the resources work. So that job is really hard and tough. And I would never run for office. So I tell my husband all the time, if someone ever says Paula's running for office, then the aliens have come and got me and brainwashed me. It's somebody else, it's not me. It will never be me.
Good answer. I dig it. Let those policy people connect dots the way they do it.
I want to
Juan,
help them.
yes, Juan, what profession would you not like to do?
Well, I'm going to give you an answer just based on how I spent my weekend. I would not want to be a landscaper. Oh my God, I spent the weekend redoing a bunch of my sprinkler system because we had some stuff re-landscaping something. I said, I'll do some of this myself. I'm like, no, you know, there's
value of your time, brother. Value of your time.
Exactly. It was fun, but I wouldn't want to do it for a living.
I try to do the same thing. I have no green thumb, and it's just like there's a reason that you outsource to the experts that the landscapers
you know,
are.
and even when you can do it, sometimes you realize, is that really what I should have done or wanted to do?
Okay. Who is your hero in real life, or heroes, Paula? Who are?
You know, the more mature I get in life, I really always reflect on my parents. Very humble people, weren't able to do the things that I've been able to do in my career. And as I look at it and realize if they were given opportunities that I was given and that we're really trying to give the next generation, their lives would have been very different. But they are always with me, not physically anymore. I've lost my parents, but all the lessons they taught to me about people, and they really are kind of the source of putting people first, regardless of who they are or where they come from. I always say electrons and molecules love everyone, but they never judge. They never judge. They never ask you who you love. They never ask you how you vote. They don't ask what school you went to. They just go where they're supposed to go. And accordingly, I miss them a lot because they taught me the most about being respectful to everyone.
Wow, I can totally relate. I lost my dad last year, and I talk to him every day. I see a cardinal fly by. You see a cardinal on the wall in the back here. That's my dad.
That's how you do it.
Yeah, that's it, lady. Juan, who are your heroes in real life?
Well, I have I guess a couple as well. My parents, you know, looking back, and I'm an immigrant. You know, my parents came to the States from Mexico when I was 4. I was not born here. I remember not knowing a word of English, you know, until somewhere I started school. And they gave up a lot, you know, to come here. And, you know, I was able to live the American dream and have opportunities that they just didn't. And you know, fortunately, they're both still alive. So really blessed to have them there. The other person I'll say is my wife. When I just watch the things that she has an instinct for things that I just have never seen anybody else have, about people, about just about life. And so she's really been a tremendous person in, you know, not just in my my home life, but even in my career, where she's, you know, encouraged me at times, and maybe where I second guess myself, and she says, no, you're the right person. You're the only person that can do this. And she saw it sometimes before I did. So yeah, so it's always good to have people like that who see the world differently. And so to me, those are the people I think that have the biggest influence on me and what I do and where I'm going.
I can't not interject, but that was amazing. I feel the same way about my wife, Betsy, who's from Pittsburgh, who is truly the rock in our family and homeschools, and is a, you know, an accomplished Johns Hopkins by way of Villanova therapist. She's amazing. And Paula, I mean, I love Eddie. Give him my hug. Give him a big bro hug from me. But like what you do as a female in today's day and age, and what you've done is truly like off the charts, amazing. So I mean, I think I speak for a lot of dudes that with, you know, our better halves, I'm not worthy. At least I'll speak for myself.
We marry well.
You marry well. I say that. I married well and married up. By the way, I see a lot of questions coming in about hydrogen. My buddy Jim Hempstead, Paula, who you and I know.
Hey, Jim.
Yeah, they're there. If you all want to answer some of those technicals, that's fine. We will get back to folks. But again, this is hopefully the beginning of an opportunity to do some outreach. All right, one more question, then parting shot. Okay, your parting shots, I'm giving you a heads up. What do you want to leave with the audience? 30 seconds or less. But here's the question that I'm taking from, you know, the great James Lipton. Paula, what would you like to hear the man or woman upstairs say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
You did your best. You
Wonderful.
did your best.
Amen.
Yeah.
JT, what would you?
You know, I think that you listened. Because I believe that we're here, you know, on a path, and that the answers are around us. The answers are there, and many times we just have to be in tune to it. So I'm hoping I'm paying attention.
Well, I'll two great answers, and again, I've been referencing Mr. Lipton, but he always loved asking these types of questions in his own way, and historically, because it evoked an answer that created a conversation, and it forces people to listen. So you two are great listeners. Obviously, you've done well, and you're going to do great things going forward. Thank you. Okay, Paula, let's start with you and finish with you. 2:57. We got 3 minutes.
Okay, I'll try. Very good. I like to close the loop on the things that I hear. So it's security, safety, resilience, reliability, customer affordability, and environmental responsibility. And you have to put those all in balance to make sure that you can manage your business like a business. Our foundation to all that is financial responsibility, because you gotta make these things work. I will say the first time we looked at solar, it was 20 times more expensive than it is today. And you just got to keep looking at things and driving it and putting it through your prisms of value so you get it. And the last thing I'll say, Jim, is we're absolutely interested in hydrogen. For us, it's going to definitely need to be a partnership, because that is a technology that needs more development and investment and balance with people who can bring in a wealth of information, and you can create the best ecosystem around that solution. So we're really excited, and we're looking at that as a technology for us in the long term.
Wonderful. There's a roadmap for those of you listening, a wonderful vision. JT, parting shot?
Yeah, parting shot, stay engaged. You know, please, you know, keep communicating with people like Paula, you know, like my friend Pete. Things are moving so fast in the world right now, and it's good to be aware and understand what's going on out there and make informed decisions. And provide your ideas in there, because believe me, we don't have all the answers. I don't have all the answers at NREL. And that's why it's so important for us to engage with all of you. So would ask you to do the same. Stay engaged, make a difference.
Wonderful. My parting shot is, and it's reflective of you two wonderful human beings, and again, very blessed to know you and excited to stay in touch with you, is, folks, humility, authenticity, and credibility, a colleague once told me, will matter and take you far in life. You two, Juan and Paula, represent that, and I'm excited to see where the future of CPS Energy and the National Renewable Energy Lab goes. But thank you for your time. Thank you from the SuperCluster, and we'll talk again really soon. And if we can, on 3, get a quick smile for the selfie, the Tseronis selfie. 1, 2, 3. Have an awesome rest of your week, okay?
Thanks, Pete. Thanks,
okay.
everyone. Good to see you
Bye-bye.
out there.
All righty.
All right. Thanks, Paula.